Welcome, welcome, welcome to Season 2 In the Spotlight Presents. I thank you for joining us again. We are back for Season 2. I am very excited to host on our very first show back in Season 2. Sister Boniswa, she is here with her school, the Every Child is a Genius Preparatory Academy. We are on location, if you can't tell, and I'm excited to have you here.
Well, thank you so much, Sister Fatimah.
This is an honor for so many reasons. For those of you who don't know Sister Boniswa, right here out of Muhammad Mosque #1, she is phenomenal on so many levels. But one of the things that I appreciate is the science you bring, and you know this.
Yes, ma'am.
The quantum physics, the way you're able to show the physics, the science of our teachings, the relevancy, and make it make sense. And I thank a lot because I've learned so much from you in that regard. And I know that I'm one of many. So we thank you. I thank you for your time at MUI. Being an MUI director, you had the opportunity to really work with our babies and bring them onto another level of learning. And I thank you for that. But right now, we are in your very own
our school.
Preparatory Academy.
Yes, ma'am.
And we have been totally impressed. My producer and I have walked around, and all we kept saying is, oh my God, oh my God. So let's talk about it.
Okay.
What is Every Child is a Genius Preparatory Academy?
Well, every child is really a genius.
Yes.
In the sense that they have the capacity to be what they were divinely born to be. And this institution is built to enable them to do that.
Yeah.
Every Child is a Genius Preparatory Academy deals with the pedagogy of bringing out, that's what education really means, is bringing out what you already have. And you do that in a specific framework, usually through questioning and seeking answers or looking for solutions to problems. And you know that 2-year-old that always asks you, why? Why? That's the most, as Donna Balaj Muhammad says, that's the most important question. Why?
Yes.
Because you want to seek the answer to the question.
Yeah.
So what we do is we construct a way in which that limitless answer can be found. Because there's always more than one solution to a problem.
And so it's funny with you bringing up the 2-year-old, because that's when they say the terrible twos.
Yes.
But it's when they're discovering they have that ability to have power by saying no, saying why. You're getting a response from. And I think a lot that you're working, and you brought up the 2-year-old, because you start with the babies early.
Yes. And part of that is, and this is why I understand why there's less investment in children, is because 0 to 6, the first 3,000 days, is the time in which their dendrites, which are the brain cells and their connections, exponentially grow. So between 0 and 6, they need to have as many experiences, as many languages, as many colors, textures, all the experiences so that their brain can evolve at a maximum rate. And so starting with them in the womb, remember we've been taught to play music, be a cake. Your wife is like
the reading, the talking to the,
they hear, they experience, the frequencies of sound, all of that impacts their development. Because what happens is every time you have a new experience, your brain makes connections to the experience you already had. What is it similar to? What is just memory?
Right.
So as you grow from 0 to 6, you're building this capacity of memory of experiences. So as you go beyond that, it's just adding to that.
To what the foundation you've already established.
And so that's why we're starting at 2 and that age, because that's where the exponential growth of the brain occurs. And it happens again when the crazy teenagers from,
I have some, so you can say that. I bear witness.
The very unique mindsets of young people from around 13, maybe to 17, they have another exponential growth. And that's when, and that's why in many countries, children are not looked at as adults until they're in their 20s.
Right.
Because their frontal lobe, which is where the reasoning and problem solving and other things, making choices and logic sets right here in the front. And it's not developed. So they do make silly choices. They don't comprehend everything they're doing.
Right.
And so that's why children are children, because they don't know. But, you know.
Now, with that said, I was watching a TikTok, because there's some really good ones out there, talking about that some of the young people's brains are not fully developed into what you would consider an adult till 26, 28 even. And it gave me a whole nother perspective looking at my young people, because my twins are now almost 18, and then I have a 20 and a 22-year-old. And now I saw it from a whole nother perspective, because in our society, we're so quick to push them out. We're so ready. You're 18 now, you're on your own, as if they now have everything they need. With that being said, with the school, every child is a genius. You have a philosophy and your mission statement is very in-depth.
Okay.
Can we talk about the mission statement? And we're going to drop the website and all the contact information, so you'll probably see that below.
Okay.
But let's talk about the mission statement of the school to give an idea of the philosophy that you're standing on. Okay.
The mission is to enable every child to have a free-thinking, problem-solving, sovereign mind. To have a sovereign mind means that you have the capacity to do as you will. Be and it is, cum vi cum. You have the capacity to observe, create, and be.
Right.
In your joy and your divine purpose. Problem solving, so many of our young people, and even adults, we see that, they just quit. It's too hard, it's too this, it's too that. No, in a mind of a sovereign being, there isn't anything you can't do. So if you can't do it, then you have the capacity to build those relationships with other people, to draw them to you to help that problem be solved.
Yes.
And there's some newer definitions of what intelligence is, and Howard Gardner, who developed the multiple intelligence theory, talked about intelligence is really the capacity to solve problems in a cultural context. So if you can't solve the problems of your own culture, then you're not that intelligent.
Right.
Somebody else's intelligence may not be yours.
Right.
Because it's not doing for you what you need to excel in your culture. And so I thought that was very powerful in redefining the paradigm of intelligence, because we often settle on the Western IQ testing, which is a sister who wrote the book Straightening the Bell Curve that talks about the origin of IQ. And that would be a whole 3-hour conversation. But if you read that book, you'll understand that it's rooted in something very, very, I'm trying to find the proper word since I'm on film.
We're going to use a proper word.
It's unacceptable to define intelligence in that way.
And yet they use this as a standard everywhere here.
For psychology, for the ACT, the SAT, the GI, all standardized tests are based on this psychological testing that they did in the late mid-1800s. And it deals with the size of the brain, the size of one's sexual organs, the size of one's hips, it's just like, wow.
And that's funny you bring that up, considering that they didn't even consider us. And some of their thinking on us, even down, I know like medically, they would say things like black women didn't suffer the same level of pain as another. So if this is their thinking on that level medically, I can only imagine then what you're saying. I'm going to have to get that book.
Yeah, it's called Straightening the Bell Curve. And she talks about how, just all the institutional racism, how that concept, the scientists, the engineers, the doctors, the writers, they all, converge to keep these lies going.
Right.
There's another sister, she wrote the book, Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome. She's really good.
I've heard
that.
Yeah.
She's another sister. She studied the impact of that thinking on the long-term effects on our people. And her research is phenomenal. And she has a program to help families recoup and relook and just look at how those ideas have negatively impacted us and how we can transform from that, which is a part of our teaching also.
Exactly. So what is your motivation? What was it that made you say, Boniswa, you need to start an academy?
Okay, that's a good question. There was a point at which I realized I am a fifth generation educator.
Okay.
My family has been educating and building institutions for about 150 years.
Wow.
So I actually tore my ACL and I couldn't work. I was just laying up and I was like, okay, it's your turn. It was like, I'm not, what? An institution. So it's like your turn.
Right. Right.
And so that's when I started writing about what it was. Every child is a genius. And so the motivation was the epiphany of that's part of my responsibility. Right. The other part of it was my children.
Yeah.
The experiences I had having them and fighting for their education in the institutions that they were in. They hated the fact that I was teaching at the school where they were. Now they appreciate it, of course. But
of course, hindsight.
Yes, always 2020.
Right, exactly.
So, so that was the other motivation, and then having grandchildren and knowing how the educational institutions were falling apart and they didn't have anywhere to go, and it's like who feels this way about children? Who believes this outside of an MUI?
Right.
You know, it's like who has this for children? And I will say that I firmly believe that the only true institution that we really have to support and sustain is an MUI, because there's no other place where you could teach the revelation of who God is and the supreme wisdom. Mm-hmm. Now here, I can teach the connections of those things. Right. And I do know that the masses of our people won't be in an MUI. Right. But it doesn't negate them raising their children so that they can be who they're divinely born to be. Mm-hmm. And whatever that journey is to get to that path for them to be that, that's what Every Child is a Genius is about.
You know, I had the honor of interviewing and speaking with Sister Janet Muhammad, Sister Medina's sister.
Yes, yes.
And we discussed the sacrifices that her family, including her and her siblings, made. And other early pioneers, as we know, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, in having our own independent schools. Mm-hmm. You're now sitting in your own independent school, and you've had the honor to be the director of MUI. What are the struggles that come with that you still see today? Because that was early 30s, early 50s that they were talking about sacrifices, or we learned of them. But now we're in 2023. So are you still seeing these great strides and sacrifices that have to be made for us to still have independent education?
Ooh, absolutely. As we became more cognizant of who we are, right, Satan has revved up to counteract that. Mm-hmm. So the more we knew that we were gods and we built institutions and we had our own economies and we had our own towns and cities, it was always this counteract to do that. So that's what they do. Yeah. So the struggle still continues because each generation gets slapped with another MO of Satan, and how my world is better than that one that they're offering you. Right, exactly. And so as long as we have that, and until each person comes into the knowledge of themselves, then we're going to have that struggle because we're combating. And now I think with this generation of young mothers, it's even harder for them to understand the need for independent education and that their children aren't being educated. Exactly. Now, I think COVID had a lot to do with them coming to that reality because it's like they're home and they can't read. It's like,
they discover what their children really knew.
Yes. Yes.
Because at one time we're sending them away 6, 7, 8 hours.
Right.
Okay, now we're at the house and we have the assignments and we are now the teacher as well as parent. And it was a reality check.
Yes.
For a lot. Your curriculum here. What's the basis of the curriculum?
Well, every child literally is a genius. There was a study done by a Dr. Land who worked for NASA, and it was a longitudinal study, which means it happened over the lifetime of about 3,000 children. And what they did was they gave the same test, a creativity test, that they gave to the NASA scientists that they used to differentiate which position these scientists would be best for. So they decide, well, let's just give these 4 and 5-year-olds the test and see what happens. So 95% of the children, 4 and 5 years old, scored genius on this test, the same test. So they did a longitudinal study, so they did it every 5 to 10 years. They tested these same young people.
The same group.
So every year, the geniusness declined. So they did it all the way till they were 30 years old, from 4 to 30. By the time they were 30 years old, it was just the opposite. Only 5% were still at genius level. The only common thread that was between all of these demographics, age, economics, race, all of that, it was varied. The only common thread was compulsory education. So we are training our children out of their genius. And so every child has the capacity to be a genius.
Right.
They start out that way at 4 and 5, but when you're put in an environment that does that, and so, every child is a genius until the adults get a hold of them.
So now let's look at your 4Ks.
Yes, ma'am. I was going to say, so out of knowing that and having being in education for the past 35 years, I've seen how the children have evolved to need to know how to learn differently. And I have to say my son and his friends were some of the most educational group I've had in learning how to teach differently.
Okay.
And to grow and understand knowledge. And he is to this day very highly kinesthetic, and a lot of his friends are. And so the 4 tenets are, and that's part of why I started, because the reality in education is experiential learning is the best way to know something. If I can experience it and teach it to you, then I know.
Right, exactly, okay.
Just because I can memorize something and regurgitate it to you doesn't mean I know it. Or recite something doesn't mean it means anything to me. And often that's what we taught. You sit in the desk, you read something, you answer a question, and hey, you get an A.
Right.
You don't apply that knowledge to anything or to prove that you do know it. Show me how you know that you know. So the 4 tenets of the curriculum is kinetics, which also means movement. There's 2 types of energy, potential energy and kinetic energy. And part of that is because the brain is evolving in the manner it should be doing, it's a lot of kinetic energy going. It's growing, expansion, movement. So kinetics means movement.
Okay.
The energy that makes things change and grow. Kinesiology is the science of movement, how the body moves, how everything moves, animals, plants. And so that's connected to nutrition, that's connected to health, that's connected to your body and mind and spirit. All those things connected in kinesiology. And then, of course, that's what we add here in the school, is because you can't think well if you're not eating well.
Exactly.
You can't perform well if you're not exercising outside and getting fresh air. So that's all a part of the kinesiology. Kinesthetic learning, as I explained, was hands-on learning, experiential learning. We do that through STEAM, through doing all the science and math and art, and we connect all that together. Like we're in the science and engineering. You got the blocks and the letters and the different activities in math that they have that they learn. And then the last one is knowledge. How do you take all of that and apply it? Because it's one of the things we differentiate between is information and knowledge.
Yes.
There's a lot of information out there, right?
Right.
But do you understand it and know what it is?
Right.
And I think that's one of our biggest challenges with our young people is they take the phone out and they say, well, I have just as much knowledge as you do.
Right.
And I'm like, well, Google's not real. Go to Google Scholar, maybe.
Right.
And then you get
a little more.
Right. I remember Wikipedia, right? Like Wikipedia's like, who? Wikipedia. Who goes to Wikipedia? Anybody could change Wikipedia. They used to argue with us all the time. So there's this arrogant ignorance that they have.
Right.
They're arrogant with their so-called knowledge of information, but information isn't knowledge.
Right.
You can have all the information in the world, but can you apply it to solve a problem? Can you apply it to make something better for humanity, for yourself, for your family? Can you make a business?
Right.
You can have all the information you want about entrepreneurship, but if you can't apply it. So I give the children an example. What if you have a library and you've read every book in the room, but you're still sitting there reading the library? What good is your knowledge if you're not sharing it or applying it to something?
Right.
So those are the 4 tenets, and that's kind of...
I heard Minister Farrakhan say, in making reference, as we know, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, one of the first instructions was read. And the minister said it didn't just, when we see the word ikra, mean read, but read and understand. So when you say that, it's more than just the reading, but it's the understanding to the reading that we have to apply. I mean, I'm sitting here and I just wish you were my teacher. I don't want to go back to being 4, 5, and 6. However, if something should happen in the universe, and I do, I want to be a student. Every child is a genius.
Well, thank you so much, sis.
It is absolutely phenomenal. And I know I use that word. That is my favorite word. I had a new word for season 2. I just can't remember what my new word is. But until I remember it, phenomenal. And we're going to give the information for Every Child is a Genius so you can inquire not just about enrollment for your child, grandchild, niece, nephew, or neighbor, but also to find out from Sister Boniswa if you want to see how we can help in Every Child is a Genius, because I'm assuming, like everything, there's assistance that could be used, donations that could be accepted. So please, we're going to provide that information. So if you want to do something charitable, true sadaqah, zakat, this is an excellent way to do something that be of good that we know will go to our babies. So I want to thank you. But before we wrap up, I want to give you the opportunity to say whatever you would like to regards to not anything in the world. This is not your time to thank the minister. No, this ain't that.
No, I wasn't going to do that. Yeah,
but anything in regards to letting the world know, every viewer of this, the value, importance, your theme, your message with Every Child is a Genius.
Wow. That's a heavy question. I'd first say love your children.
Yes.
Love them. Hug them. Know when they tell you something that it is true.
Okay.
They are a gift from Allah to you. They don't belong to us.
Yeah.
They belong to Him. And we have to do everything we can to save them from this awful world that's so quickly trying to transform them in many ways.
Yeah.
Without our permission.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Factually.
So, love them. Give them things that give them life, and speak joy into them, because they really are our future, and the future is now.
Yes.
Not 5 years from now. We were just talking about that, weren't we?
Yes.
You have to just grab it now.
I thank you.
I thank you.
Minister Farrakhan said, and we'll have the clip on here, but Minister Farrakhan said, don't worry about starting them with science and math. Teach them the right attitude and the right behavior. And that's what I get from your academy, as well as from the atmosphere. I mean, you're in a atmosphere conducive to teach our babies and for them to learn and get it all. And I thank you.
I thank
and
you
I pray to Allah for your success.
Thank you, sis. I appreciate you.
We thank you for joining us for another episode of In the Spotlight Present. Please don't forget, like, subscribe. Thank you again for joining us. We'll see you next week. Subscribe. And we'll see you next week for another episode of In the Spotlight. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you.